Yo, sit down, let's dig into your spiritual ego. Think you're looking fly, white linen kimono, got your yoni egg in. I think you're ready. Yeah, it's time for Ubud on tea.
Good to be here, gentlemen.
Good to have you
welcome,
here.
bro.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, serve you a cup of tea.
Please.
I want to say actually, I have anxiety around people that are really amazing at what they do, and I didn't have a frame of reference for you other than improv back in the day when we would do it during the C word time. But I was so impressed with the way that off the top of your head, you always were able to use topical themes, whether they be spiritual topical or politically topical, in real time. And as I've continued my improv life or what have you path, it's something that I try to move towards also. You inspire me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, improv is one of those tools that's good for literally everything you do. Like if you're good at improvisation, you're going to be a better everything. Businessman, lover, artist, general. It's a general purpose hack, I would say.
That's interesting actually, because I remember we've done an interview already, Kevin and I,
Yep.
for my other podcast, The Light Leaders, and a lot of it was about flow mastery, and obviously improv comes into it and have so many things.
First question: Chengu or Uluwatu?
Uluwatu.
You can say a little bit why.
Yeah, you can say why.
It's more chill and the beaches are cleaner and better.
Zest
Three.
Sayuri.
Zest because the drink menu's better.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Brought to you by.
Might lose this otherwise,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Colonic or Cambo?
Combo. Not a huge fan of colonics.
Okay.
Why is that?
I don't know. Should we do a session about it and go into the root chakra?
Maybe it's the same reason why Lawrence loves colonics. Anyway, for another time. Frappe or ice bath?
Ah, that's a tough one. Hape, then ice bath. Combo.
Hardcore.
Ooh,
Yeah.
That actually is a good one. I would try that.
And breath of fire in the ice bath after the
Wow. It's not going everywhere.
straight samadhi.
Temple night or Kundalini class?
Kundalini class. Too many entities at temple night.
Talking about entities. Talking about entities.
This should be an entire booty and game show about this.
Talking about entities. Ayahuasca or Vipassana?
Ayahuasca. Because it's like 100 Vipassanas in one night.
Mm-hmm.
Cacao or puer?
Puer. More shin. There's a lot of jing in cacao.
Speaking of which.
Lawrence, you can go for the next question.
It's the second time in a row. Durian or urine therapy?
Oh, it's not even what? How do you put those together? Durian, bro. I could live on durian. I fucking love it. I've never done urine therapy. Have y'all? Whoops.
For another time?
We don't talk about that stuff around here, but we're gonna have a guest who's gonna talk about it for sure at
great.
some point.
I've actually heard good things from people I trust. So
Same.
It's
Fuck,
weird.
maybe I'll do it one
It's
day.
weird.
Same.
Yes, it's
Yeah, we're
weird.
too early in the show to actually have that conversation. But yeah, you want ready for the next one?
Yeah. Yoga barn or radiantly alive?
Yoga barn. I mean, it's the tribe hub. As long as the DJ is good. You're not playing
Well,
fucking
that's for our next
EDM
question.
on repeat.
Okay, so the next question is Malaika or Toltec?
Toltec.
Wow, I was like, he might not know who Toltec is, but
I
you
dig
know
that.
who Toltec is.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Ben might have to be a guest soon.
Yeah.
Kirtan or ecstatic dance?
It depends on the mood. Probably ecstatic dance 60% of the time, but I love kirtan.
Contact dance or ecstatic dance?
I enjoy contact. I would prefer contact with a skilled partner. Ideally, my queen.
Same.
Same.
And last question: stay home on a Friday night or ecstatic dance?
Static dance, but I stay home probably 50-50. I love it
Ecstatic
good.
dance at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is with the right partner, it's actually contact dance.
Yeah.
Contact ecstatic dance at home on a Friday night.
Yeah.
We're done. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
good job. There's the end of. Shoo.
This or that.
Fire question.
Okay.
That's great.
Where we are? Oh yeah, because you've lived. That's Ubud Auntie.
Yeah.
And for people who aren't so familiar in Bali, there's like a bit of that rivalry between Ubud, more the spiritual, and Canggu, more the entrepreneurial. But one that's been rising and kind of combining a bit of both, also Uluwatu. I know you've been living in all these places, Canggu, Ubud, and Uluwatu. Why do you live in Uluwatu now? Why did you leave Ubud? Because we miss you, Kevin.
Yeah, I should come visit more. I recommend most people to go in the order I went. A lot of people hit me up, hey, should I live in Bali? Should I do the thing? So I first came here 3 years ago and lived in Ubud for a long time. Like, left, came back probably over a year and a half-ish. No, maybe a year in Ubud. Ubud is amazing if you want a lot of events. This place has the best events, hands down. It also has the most OG tribe that are like into yoga, cacao, shamanic stuff, all the things. So that's amazing in Ubud. Also, Ubud, if you are coming to Bali for a healing journey or to fucking chill and like reset your nervous system from the West, Ubud's the best. Because, the rice paddies, the jungle, the energy here is just like a lot of earth and water.
Can't work.
Yeah.
Try and come with your
It's
laptop.
hard to work here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although you can do it, but it's just not the easiest. Canggu is the opposite. That's where I went next. I lived in Canggu for 3 to 6-ish months, and it was amazing.
When was that?
If you want to work, it was end of last year end of 2 years ago and beginning of last year, right as the corona was kind of ending. And Canggu's amazing if you want to get fucking fit, you want to go out clubbing, you want to date because everybody's like hot and an entrepreneur.
It's not some ketamine.
Yeah, I mean, if you're into that. So Canggu is amazing if you want to have meetings or meet fucking people that are crushing business or just be excited and creative, right? It also has the beach, which is a big game changer. I need the beach.
Those sunset
I
walks.
was joking, but it's true. I used to live in Canggu, and it's not, as a surfer, it's so nice in the morning. Also, just go for a sunrise surf.
Totally.
Miss that a bit in Ubud.
Yeah. And then finally, I went to Uluwatu. Uluwatu is a nice mix of Ubud and Canggu. Because Uluwatu Temple, I mean, it's one of the most sacred places in Bali. I don't know if you'll know the history, but like basically the monk who created the Banjar, he like did this whole pilgrimage through the islands of Indonesia, and this was the temple where he like helped one of these ancient kings become enlightened. Wow. And he apparently like ascended there. So like the cliffs in Ulu and the energy there is very rooted, a lot of wind, and like you can surf, you can work, or you can just fucking chill. The beaches there are the most beautiful in Bali, I think. The Istana is amazing. And it's more like a beach town, It'll become like Canggu in a few years. I mean, even since I've left, I've been gone a year. There's so many developments, but it still has that chill, like kind of surf town vibe. So that's where I choose to live when I'm here. While visiting Canggu and Ubud a lot.
You don't miss the Ubud community when you're in?
I do. I'm just... Yeah, I guess this time around, I'm just kind of in like work warrior mode. So it's easier to kind of be out of the community while I do that.
What are you focusing on at the moment?
A lot of things. I mean, right now I'm launching a group program all about relationships and polarity and masculine feminine dynamics. So that's kind of like something I've shifted into heavily over the last several months. And I'm going to do that at the end of the year. And I'm just also, I'm dabbling in crypto. I'm doing a lot of interviews and podcasts myself. I host on my podcast.
Did you get your Lion DAO NFT?
I have many Lion DAO NFTs, yes. Shout out to FaZe and High Vibe Network. I know y'all had him on here.
Yeah, I saw him yesterday. I was in Canggu at Body Factory, and there he was, and we just had a good workout together. So. Yeah,
another big perk of Canggu is Body Factory. It's nothing like it. Although Tirivatu is amazing.
Not Body Factory.
It's not Body Factory, but we'll give it, some kudos.
Just for the sake. Yeah.
So I'm in big work mode, launch mode, to answer your question.
I mean, that's a good segue in what we wanted to talk about.
Which is men's work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about men's work. I'd love to talk about men's work. And I mean, you were talking about relationships, niche shifting, like you even said it, like I'm going to be doing this for the next 6 months or so, or something like that. How did you initially get into men's work? What's your relationship with men's work?
Yeah.
I've seen you participate in a program by Lion about a year ago. So there was Shiva, just like as a
Right. He invited me to
little
talk.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a solid crew of men. I think a lot of people got a lot of value out of that. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, you know, growing up, born and raised in Texas, you know, I played sports. I played American football. I played soccer. I did martial arts. I did like Aikido and Kendo, and fucked around a little bit with wrestling. And you know, there just weren't strong male role models. And I identified that early. I was kind of like, what's going on here? But it wasn't until like post, you know, kind of spiritual quest, like long story short, the abridged version, I was going to go to grad school for my PhD in psychology, was like burning out and realizing academic culture is fucking awful. I was like, fuck this, sold all my belongings, quit my good university job, and backpacked through Asia. Actually didn't make it to Bali, but went everywhere else, like Thailand, Malaysia, Laos, Myanmar, and India, and went deep into yoga, did my teacher training, and came back to LA, and I was like, wow, like, you know, yoga teacher training, and I was teaching workshops, and then I was also personal training people. And at that time, I really got into coaching, and then I realized that men's work was a thing. And so I was really blessed to go to several retreats with an amazing mentor, Elliot Hulse. I don't know if y'all know, he's a big YouTube personality. He's quite controversial these days.
Listen to him on London Real, and it was pretty controversial.
He's a savage. He's way more controversial now. But Elliot's a fucking legend. I would recommend him to people. Just take his stuff with a grain of salt. But he was doing really powerful men's workshops and retreats, like extremely intense, like breath work, bioenergetics, like rite of passage level shit. Only men at first. And then I encountered Sacred Sons much later. So I started like speaking about it, talking about it, led some men's circles at our place in San Diego. I had 2 business partners there. And yeah, kind of just fell into the movement. I facilitated at Sacred Sons' first 3 workshops, and like in a lot of it on relationship stuff and like reclaiming masculinity and like polarizing a relationship. And yeah, I just, since then, it's just kind of like, I never sought it out. It's just people have found me and I get invited to go these places. And I wrote a book with 2 co-authors all about this, sex, masculinity, and God, about like sexuality, like the journey of becoming a man, and like, why is it so hard to understand masculinity in the modern age? And then also like God and like the absolute, like what's the relationship between man and that?
My relationship to this work is solely through David Deda's work, like we talked about at the onset at the beginning of the show. How close are you to your writings and to the stuff that you do to his work? Where do you deviate? And maybe like just for people who aren't familiar with his work, maybe you can speak to that so they understand what you're about in that.
This is becoming a David Deda affiliate program. We should probably get a kickback. Which, I mean, shout out, he's a fucking legend. He put Polarity on the map for a lot of people. Even though there's plenty of people that were writing about it, you know, Robert Bly and, you know, a lot of these guys, Robert Moore, you know, King Warrior Magician Lover, Iron John, these are like the OG men's work books. But Deda did something unique in that he approached, you know, sexuality and dating from the like kind of Taoist Hindu language, where it's very poetic and like deep, but it's also addressing like core stuff that everyone's facing right in their life. And you know, I encountered Way of the Superior Man like a month after my first Burning Man. So this is like 2013 or 14, and I was driving from SoCal to NorCal, and I was listening on audio and just like binged it for that road trip. And I even like kept listening after, and it just like changed my life. I was like, what the fuck? This whole time I've been doing it wrong, right? In relationships. Because I realized I was like, I'm pretty much a lot of the time just kind of going with the flow and not holding a masculine core essence. And that's why, you know, I was wondering why I was having trouble with partners at that time. So I think his work is incredibly powerful. I think it's still relevant. I haven't gotten deep into some of his other books, but I would recommend most people to start with Way of the Superior Man, even women. Although some women have shared that like for women or feminine beings, starting with your lover first is better for them.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I was just gonna say every episode should have like a moment that we just like are silent and awkward.
Oh. Did you have something more on that? Because then I would segue more into relationships.
Go ahead, you go.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, actually, that relates quite a lot about, so David Dedan, that awareness of polarity. And as you said, I'm more in that flow that's not attractive to the stereotype of the feminine that wants a man that's maybe more directive and structured. Yeah, I mean, that's something for me that I'm playing with. In one way, I want to be, okay, I'm a man, I want to be a man, and play this. And I wonder how much of it I want to transcend also. And if the woman does the same, then I don't want to go against nature, but at the same time, I don't want to feel I'm too bound and limited by the gender and the biology. And I feel maybe we can go beyond that with a partner.
Yeah.
Like
I love
how do you play with polarity? Do you feel, okay, that's our roles, let's strengthen what it should be to be a man and a woman? And how much do you challenge that and look at, well, how much do we want to go into like beyond that?
I mean, I'd love to see it. Never seen it once. Never seen a couple who is an androgynous super being that can Shiva Shakti and has high polarity. And I'm sure they might exist. And, I'm also quite extreme with some of these views because after seeing at this point, probably hundreds of clients and going all these places and talking with people about this, everybody has the same problems, whether it's a conscious community or I've been in men's retreats with working class dudes, literally carpenters and builders. They're having the same issues. Now, there's many ways to break this down, and probably don't have enough time on the podcast, but several things come to mind. One, you have to learn the rules like a pro. And this is a Picasso quote. Someone can fact check it. You have to learn the rules like a pro before you can break them like an artist. So if you are a master of polarity, married for 40 years, you and your partner were just so deep in it. At that point, you could start probably fucking around with transcending, and then you're both beyond masculine and feminine. The reality is that we live in a dual universe, and quick PSA, because someone right now, I can just feel them getting upset. It's well, this is bullshit because this is gender normative and this is the patriarchy. It's no, actually it's not. Masculine and feminine are energies, just like sun and moon, just like yin and yang. They're the same in same-sex couples and transgender or non-binary folks. So just throwing that out there, moving on. When you own your dominant core essence, so for me as a man, my dominant essence is going to be masculine because that's what I feel best in. That's what I'm most successful in. When you just own that, and then this is the big part, accept the limitations of that. That's the key that I struggled with, the same mindset. Accept the limitations. And this is the mindfuck about discipline. It's actually limiting yourself to make yourself more powerful, right? Imagine a water hose that's just fanning out versus a laser beam of water, right? That can cut stone, right? It's you're focusing energy basically. And it's Tantra. Tantra is union with reality. It's merging, and you're owning duality to get to a place of power, not to disempower. And that's it can be a mindfuck. And this is what's happening all the time, every day, even if you're not with your partner. It's the most obvious when you're with your partner and you want to go on a date or create an experience, or you want to be physically intimate. Then it's really palpable because the poles are meeting one another. But you could be going around about your day, drinking tea here at Zest, you could be on a call, you could be at work. You're still playing with that polarity and duality, right? The yin and the yang are always present inside you. And as a lot of men in Ubud are, myself included, we've cultivated our feminine core essence a lot, and we've explored it, right? Whether that's through psychedelics or tantra or shamanic practice, dance, music, art. The feminine is pure creative energy. It's pure, it's Shakti. It's ever changing. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of inspiration from that. However, when you're not in those ecstatic states or altered states, you're going to have to be in your masculine. Like, you know where your house is, you know your zip code, you know, do you know how to get into your bank account, you know how to fill your bank account, you know how to like take a feminine being on a date and actually create a safe container that she can expand and you can penetrate that energy with her. So it's a dance. And you got to own your pull, in my view, and cultivate it intentionally while accepting that there's a time and a place for each one.
Yeah.
How would a man who is from Ubud that has cultivated his feminine, that has a masculine core, how would he sharpen his masculine core? Like, what would be a good practice or a good focus for that?
It's a great question. I mean, the answer is a discipline or practice. Just pick one, right? The most simple ones I love, which are readily available, and you were bringing them up earlier, ice bathing, you know? That's a simple way to expose yourself to discomfort and build a routine. I mean, I would also suggest, you know, something like yoga, kundalini, weightlifting, you know, running, whatever. Just pick something and go all in on it, something you enjoy. And physical practices, I think, are best to start with, because if you try to start with something more abstract, it can be slippery, right?
Yeah.
To me, there's almost two ways. There's the more physical and the ice bath. By the way, we used to have an ice bath in our home. That was great. And also, to me, the masculine is that strength and also the stillness. So I feel something like Vipassana.
Right.
There was a discussion I've had a friend who thought meditation was feminine. No, to me, at least something like Vipassana is very masculine. Just being super still.
Totally. Yeah, no, meditation is a top practice. I would 100% agree.
Or fasting, maybe.
Fasting is a
would
good
be
one.
a really good one as I think about it. What surprised me is you mentioned Kundalini and weightlifting together. Now, weightlifting I would think of as like a masculine discipline, and Kundalini is a discipline, no doubt. But I feel like it cultivates something that's more light, more feminine. So I don't know if I'm picking.
For me, it's like I was catering it to Ubud, but
Okay.
I mean, you're right. Kundalini is a little more balanced. Now, all that being said, that's just like first base. Like, I'm assuming that they have a place to put their creative energy, that they're financially structured, whether they're working for someone else or working for themselves. That all has to feed together into their life, right? The masculine is about strategy and structure, right? The classic metaphor is like the feminine is the river. It's just like raging, there's rapids, sometimes you get still. Masculine is the river banks, so you're channeling the life force. For yourself, within yourself, you're masculine, feminine, and if you're in a relationship, that's going to come into play. So you got to be the river banks. You need structure. That means you need to master time.
Sometimes even the banks. It's funny that's a river bank.
It's actually not funny. It's probably like specifically created that way, like the water.
No, it is.
Yeah.
The etymology. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
You spend currency, the river current, put your
Yeah.
money in a bank. No, there's a lot
liquidity, like it goes on.
Exactly.
And on and
There's
on.
a lot of hidden. That's a whole rabbit hole, by the way. It's like,
Yeah, I'm in that. We're not ready for that yet on this show.
That's a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But yeah, masculine's gonna have to master time. It's like strategic, right? So like, what are you doing with time? Like, there's a classic saying in the entrepreneur world. It's like, oh, like you're about this and that. Oh, you have to talk a big game. Show me your calendar and show me your bank account, and I'll tell you exactly what you're actually doing, right? Or show me your group of friends. Those three things can tell you so much about how a person is using their time, energy, and attention and structuring it. And yeah, you know, a lot of guys, especially if they move to Bali and, you know, they've been living it up and, you know, whatever. And, you know, maybe they're still experiencing high polarity in their masculine, like in dating and sexuality or even in their business, but it's an inner game, right? It's an inside job. The core masculine essence starts with yourself. You have to lead yourself and like train yourself, basically.
And yourself. Like, I find that outsourcing things like Kundalini, meditation, even going to like a workout class, it's important. It's a step one because I'm going to these places, but we're talking about strategy and structure, and we're talking about like yourself, which means at some point, it's like, I'm not going to go to a CrossFit class. I'm going to be able to, like, in this realm, I'm going to have to be able to like cultivate that willpower to do that workout on my own, so to speak, as a metaphor.
Sure. I mean, when you're going to a class, it's really good at the beginning because you're actually surrendering to another's masculine container.
Yeah.
Right? The teacher, the sangha, the community is holding you so you can cultivate yourself, which is super valuable at the beginning. Most of us have to do that. And it's always valuable, even because some days you'll want that support. But yeah, this is where cultivating a self-ritual, self-practice. You know, I think writing and reading, I'm also super heady. I love this shit. But, you know, reading is, you're literally spending time with another person's intellect.
Yeah.
Especially a good book, not some fucking whatever book, but like solid stuff. You know, that's a cultivation, and like sitting and actually reflecting on what you're reading. And then writing, you're cultivating your own mind. And, you know, meditation would go in there. I'd put prayer in there or some kind of devotion. You know, those are the things you do when no one's watching.
Which means you have to have time when no one's watching.
Right.
Which is so much harder in like social media world where we're, you know, we're like doing that a lot.
Sure.
Not us, other people. You want to move on, right? Or you have another question?
I'm thinking of moving on to relationship.
Yeah, I feel like that's a perfect segue.
Yeah. Because actually, you good with that?
Yeah,
totally. Because that's also a relationship, by the way. She's beautiful.
It is.
We were talking about sometimes how I was joking about how our relationship for the podcast is almost like a lot of cultivation and feeling safe and segueing back to romantic relationships. You talked about making the importance of the masculine making a container safe, and we've had Josh just before, who's leaning more towards open ways to relate, and he explained why. What's your view on open relationship? Let's say, to put a definition on it, at least opening sexuality, for example, into a romantic relationship. Yeah, what's your view on it? Do you feel it can make the people can feel safe in that, or what's your view on that? And so can you start with your relationship also and why you're doing it this way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a monogamous relationship. We've been together for a year, and you know, from the very beginning when we were
probably
first,
have Ulrika at some point.
Yeah, she'd love that. You know, at the very beginning, we kind of stated that that's what we were really available for, and have gone in that way, and it's been amazing, you know, and so it's very young, only a year. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that. Now, disclaimer, I have been in open relationships, a few over the years, and I think they are amazing for exploring yourself, for breaking edges, confronting things like jealousy and scarcity versus abundance and all these, you know, things. That being said, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, I've never seen a long-term couple that I would judge personally to be deeply in love, committed, running a family or running a business of any kind that is using an open style. Now, I have people come up and they're like, well, what about this one and this one? And, you know, I've known a few over the years living in California and around the world. And yes, they were doing awesome things. Yes, they might have had a throuple for many, many, many years. And again, this is my small sample size, which is why I always ask this question, because I want to see it. I'm like, cool, let me show you it. Always a lot of drama, a lot of wounding. A lot of it's not intentional, but someone gets the short end of the stick a lot of the time, which I don't think it has to be the case. It's just the skill level and the trust required to make it work long term is, it's tough. I think our ancestors, many of them were polyamorous, but they lived in a village of 150 people or less. A lot of the fathers didn't know whose kids were whose. The mothers knew, right, because it came out of their body. And everyone was raising everyone's children because they literally lived and died together because they were hunting and gathering. A lot of them were nomadic.
They were just one big family.
In a sense. So in that sense, like, yeah, like you didn't have a wife that no one, you know, this woman has relationships with like 4 men in the village and had 4 different, you know, children, and who knows whose children they were. In that, you know, that's why it's in our DNA. Like there are times in history that was happening. Now, as you know, gather resources, you become sedentary, you know, agriculture, walled cities, civilization, armies, markets, you know, we've kind of gone on this long trajectory. Now, in the modern world, I really believe that most people, if they want to get all their core needs met and they want to have deep, alive intimacy, and especially if they want to have children and they want to have a household, right? Whether that's a business, they want to own property, they want to do some shit, you're going to be much more well served by going all in on monogamy. And again, accepting the limitations of monogamy. So instead of going wide, this is speaking kind of to men right now, going wide with your seed, you know, like people use the idea like, you know, men just want to spread their seed. And it's like, yeah, on one level, But there's a strategy of going wide, and like, you know, imagine going to the library and reading the first chapter of 10 books. Or imagine reading one really good book that you chose and memorizing it, because it's fucking amazing and it has all 10 chapters. So it's like wide versus deep, right?
My
Are we
partner's
getting
like
some,
nodding.
there's some signals, see? The feminine is signaling to you. Now the masculine can make a decision based on that.
You know,
This is great.
I think you have to stop. I think you have to stop now. Just keep it on us for now. Just like saving the shows. Just when she's okay with. Cool. Yeah, that's really cool. That's a really good point. I heard you use the word running a business in context of relationship.
Not necessarily together. I mean, like, for people that want to have, like, they're
That
involved
kind of
deeply in a
life.
business and that
Yeah.
kind of life, it's going to support that.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother level, right? Running
Do
a
you-
business together.
What do you think if, because a lot of people, especially around Ubud, are like, oh, we're a tribe and looking at building community, eco-villages, and then living a little bit more in that ancient way also. How do you feel it works with that?
Specifically with open relating?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the longest experiment of this is in Portugal. It's called Tamara. I hear good things about it. Apparently, it works so well because there is extremely high levels of accountability. So it's like sexual exploration, open relating's encouraged. And I think this community has been around 40 years or something. I've never been, but there's an amazing documentary of brother Ian McKenzie who had on my podcast. It's called Open Love or Free Love. Someone can look it up. But yeah, there's basically huge circling exercises or councils where any, like, Pete's an asshole. He fucked Sarah and he said he wouldn't. And like that, you can imagine this is happening all the time. But they have a technology to basically meet the contractions in community. The elder people hold it down. There's a whole system. They really operate like a village, even though it's got expats coming in and out. The application process and the vetting process to actually live there and do stuff there, not as a volunteer, is years. So they've set up a very tight-knit container where I think it can thrive. And in terms of Bali and other places where communities are building and growing, yes, that's awesome as a vision. I also have spent a lot of time traveling and speaking at these potential communities, specifically like here, Costa Rica, Mexico, and the States, and now a few in Europe. The number 1 and 2 reasons, the top 3 reasons that intentional communities fail and do not continue after under 10 years is like a stat from like longitudinally from the 60s. Someone can look it up. Number 1, financial issues. So the founders are like, we have 10 million to build this village and da-da-da. And then it's like,
So masculine
wait.
core.
Right. It's like, Jim, you spent 6 million on fucking DJ equipment. It's like the money gets mismanaged, right? Second one is sexual issues, usually between core founding members that destroy it. And the third one is just the founder's vision don't agree. So you notice like number 2 reason that the community fails is because the sexuality is opened or handled in a way that actually destroys the grassroots of what the community needs to even grow.
Money, sex, power.
Bingo. Bingo. That's it. Which are the lower 3 chakras, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's Muladhara, Svadhisthana, Manipura. It's like literally humanity's evolving. Like a lot of teachers talk about this, like we're evolving like into the solar plexus, the high solar plexus, to actually bridge into the heart. Like if you look at the chakras as a map, like that's where humanity is. We're kind of navigating in here. Because and a lot of people haven't figured out money and sex at all. And myself included, I'm a fucking student. That's why I went so deep in personal development. Nobody teaches you how to relate to these energies, the energies that define most of our lives as humans.
It's interesting, like in terms of like we haven't, like you use the term evolved to here, or what if we're devolving?
Descending, yeah, that's another idea. I think it's like a toroidal, so it's happening at
Right,
once,
at the
right?
same
It's
time.
like fractal, yeah. It's not like a linear thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to add a bit on the relationship. I'd like to ask you something, because we talked a lot about why not open relating. I know you're in
Sure.
a very beautiful relationship now, so maybe what's exciting you the most about building that container with Rika at the moment and sharing?
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing with her specifically because she's also teaching and studying this stuff like professionally. So it's like we're literally living in a dojo for our work. So it's like, you know, which is amazing and challenging because there's nowhere to hide. You know, it's just like everything requires ownership and accountability. The beautiful thing with us is that I believe we're so compatible, like on every level, like physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, that even if one of us is going through big things, and we do, it's not like rainbows and butterflies, we go through our shit. The way we navigate it with skill is like unlike anything I've experienced. You know, and again, someone's like, well, have kids and be married 10 years. You know, people online say this a lot. They're like, shut the fuck up, hippie, you've been, you know, it's like, cool. Cool story, bro. Like, enjoy your terrible third divorce. The thing about like the relationship is like the way it starts and the first honeymoon phase in the beginning determines how it's going to continue. So it's like if you
say that again, repeat that.
So the way a relationship starts and how you navigate the honeymoon phase and like the first, you know, few years sets up the rest of the relationship.
And thank you for asking to repeat, because a lot of people would say the work starts after a year and a half, after the honeymoon.
That's a ridiculous idea that like, it's like, wow, you just showed up to the relationship. You've just been kind of on autopilot until now. And now when things get hard, it's like, all right, let's roll up our sleeves. It's like, it's ridiculous. This is boomer tantra. That's what I call that stuff. Like when someone tries to tell me how relationships worked and they haven't been in a good relationship and their parents. And that's why I feel like our generation is one of the ones that's gonna really break this legacy of trauma between men and women and between parents and children. It's like a lot of us are kind of stopping the momentum of the trauma, working out our shit. And then the relationships we're creating and the kids we're gonna have in these villages, communities, etc. You know, that's the whole reason a lot of this is happening. You know, if you go deep in the Hindu lineages, these are the samskaras. Like we're literally untangling the samskaras of all this fucking just trauma. And it's not their fault. It's not they're evil people. It's just like they were dealt intense hands and they didn't have tools to deal with it.
It's not our fault.
No.
This needs a aho brother.
Aho brother.
Uh-huh.
Aho brother. Aho.
Namaste.
Where's the sage? Where's Pow with the leaves?
All right.
Aho.
This is really good tea.
Yeah, we'll finish this podcast with telepathic communication.
I think that's fine. I mean, as long as you're watching live, you're fine too. I mean, I could like dig some more questions, like because the subject matter is so interesting. The fact that you guys, like the business part is really interesting because you guys both work in a similar field. I think I saw that you guys are doing stuff together.
Not yet. I mean, we've done some videos, but we haven't actually worked together. I mean, we will at some point.
And the ability to be able to coexist, because now you're like, the business is like a masculine strategy, structure. So she would lose her masculine or her feminine in that realm a little bit.
Sure.
And so on and so forth. So for me, that's something that's super fascinating because I always want to work with my women. And it also seems like a good place not a good place. It's a dangerous place to go sometimes.
Oh, I've been there.
For Polarity especially.
For Polarity is what I'm speaking to, yeah.
And this is what she's really good at teaching, and I don't want to speak for her, but, you know, feminine transition rituals and the ability to actually be in your body and have, you know, a safe space. So you have like workspace, you have, you know, tribe space, and then you have like your couple space, which is sacred. And so the way you navigate through those and how you transition is important, right? And it's the same for men. Like, you know, I might be in my masculine, like doing the thing in my business, but then when I come home or to the relationship, I maybe just want to relax. You know, it's like, fuck, I don't want to be on it anymore. And you still got to bring that energy of direction and leadership to the feminine. And so that's my side of that. And then for her, it's to soften and to open and like not bring the like super mental masculine energy. And it's just an awareness around it. And
is awareness enough?
And practice. You have to practice like shifting, like usually with your body, right? It's not like a cool idea.
And the structure, right? Like, for example, having, yes, I mean, you touched on it, but having even really dedicated, for example, tonight's a tantra night, or like a date night, and having containers where, okay, we're not going to talk about work, especially if you work together.
Right. Yeah, this is big. I mean, we have a weekly ritual that we take turns leading. So like one partner will come up with what it's going to be, the other one.
Queen's night and King's night.
Basically, yeah. And it's amazing. So we have that as just kind of a stable. But we're actually really good. And again, like, you know, it's been a year, so we're navigating pretty full steam ahead, a lot of momentum, a lot of polarity just naturally. So it's not like we really have to do anything. It's more just have to get out of the way of like the tendency to just talk about work or like small talk, right? Or just like kind of be in like logistics is what we call it. Like, oh, we need to do this, or we need to do that. And like, oh, like, you know, it's just like, no, drop into the body. You know, eye gazing, getting out of like just vocalizing work stuff, dance, or like a workout, or like, you know, pattern interrupt, and then create the couple space together. And I think most people experience this even if they're working like traditional jobs, right? Because now most women are working as well. Even if they're at home with the children, they might still be working online. So, and since Corona, everyone's working online. So when you get up from your computer and you enter couple space, you need to be intentional. And you need to have a transition, right? Like, go fucking pick up a kettlebell, like take an ice bath.
Like now.
Right.
Like it sounds to me, what's coming to mind is fake it till you make it, in a positive sense. In the sense of, like, we hear, or I've heard a lot, for the woman who might have more masculine tendencies, to allow the masculine to lead her.
Right.
Now that is a fake it till you make it moment where she has to be like, fuck, okay, I'm just gonna like let him open the door, like wait for him. You know? Do you find that that's enough, or does that work, or does it have to be organic?
That will work in the short term, because maybe by just letting him lead, even if she's like, you know, resentful and kind of hardcore masculine, maybe, but no, it's not going to work in the long term, because, and this is the other like vulnerable part that you're going to have to navigate as a couple, and it's not the norm, it's the exception, not the rule, but some couples thrive when the male body is in the feminine energy and the female body is in the masculine. That exists. I have seen that. I think it's not common, and it probably wouldn't suit most people, but if that what works and you can hold polarity that way, fuck yeah.
In the long term, it might not work, but can it be like a jump start?
Totally. Like, the good thing about fake it till you make it, that idea, is that your nervous system doesn't, you know, subconscious basically doesn't tell a difference.
Nice. So
that's why faking it, so like comedy improv works too.
Yeah. You
can become that character and enact whatever it is. And subconscious isn't saying like, oh, we're just pretending. It's just like, oh, we're doing this now. And it's just, that's happening. The conscious mind's the one that you're gonna have to deal with, because it's resisting or like, well, I should choose what we're gonna eat, and I pick whatever, and I wanna pay, and I wanna open the door, you know. Those ideas, and, you know, not to open a rabbit hole at the end of the podcast here, but this is where I see a lot of the, you know, dare I say, the psychological operation, psyop, and negative impact of the postmodern strain of feminism, which is, you can be a strong, independent woman, you don't need no man, men are actually violent, like all men are violent or bad.
Toxic.
Yeah, the whole toxic masculinity comes out of this, but, you know, more and more women now, I've been interviewing a lot, if people are interested, on my Instagram page and YouTube, I've been interviewing a lot of these women. More and more are waking up, and they're like, yo, classical feminism is awesome. Like the OG feminists in the 50s and 60s, it's just like, yeah, we want equality of opportunity. They didn't want equity or quality outcome. Like, we don't want to, you know, work in railroad spike, you know, they don't want to like clean sewers. Like, the fucking men are going to do that. They don't want to go to war and like, you know, be on the front line. Most women don't. Anyway, feminism has done a huge disservice to men and women by inverting and distorting our instincts, basically, our natural polarized instincts. And conscious community is not immune. In fact, a lot of people in the community that I see are super into these ideologies. And they're like, and then they layer on the spiritual part. It's like, well, you know, the Arcturian Council told me, or ayahuasca told me. So it's like, it's another layer of like ideology around that. And most of them are single or have a story that there are no good partners, and they, you know, kind of like team up with other people, and they're like, yeah, this is all bullshit, and like, and I feel sorry for them, and I ended up working with some of them to like kind of unpack that and be like, hey, like, what do you actually want? And most of them, when you get to the core, I want to be in my feminine essence, and I want a man I can trust and love, who will contain and lead me in a good way, you know, with like care, not like a macho asshole, but like actually a strong masculine partner in their life, so then they can be a strong feminine.
Very cool. I can't wait to have you on again, because as we mature this show, like a lot of the topics that we just touched on, we're going to be able to go deeper, and also the narrative is going to move, so we're going to be able to talk about new things and really dive deep. Thank you so much. That was really awesome.
Thank you, guys.
A last little thing, if you can make it, but if you can make it short, I have a curiosity around you having traveled quite a lot, being living in Austin, visiting Costa Rica, being now in Bali. Where's your favorite place in the world?
I mean, my favorite place right now, I'm also biased because I went to college there, is Austin, Texas. Like it's like Silicon Valley in the 90s right now, in terms of coaches, entrepreneurs, people that want to build, you know, buy land, build community. A lot of crypto folks, a lot of, you know, people hosting podcasts or doing retreats or working with medicine or working with, you know, all the biohacking, health conscious, you know, fuck the matrix mentalities.
So why are you here?
I'm here right now because we were in Europe doing events, and then my lady's getting a visa. So best oasis in the world when you're in between countries, right? So also miss Bali. It's been a year, so I was ready to come back.
Sweet.
I'm glad I did.
And how long do you stay?
It's still up in the air. We're still waiting on the paperwork, so probably another month, which I'm not complaining. It's great.
We're not complaining either. We're very, very happy that you were able to stop by and be part of what we're doing here.
Fuck yeah.
Finish with the tradition?
The slurp or the questions?
Oh yeah, we have the questions.
Quick questions. First question is, what thing did you never do before you came to Ubud?
Enemas. I had my first enema in Ubud.
No colonics, but enemas he's into.
Yeah, there you go.
And what is normal? What is normal in Ubud that is weird in the rest of the world?
Super long 45-second hugs with audible sighs.
Yeah. Do we have any more? Do we have any more tea for him? For the tradition?
Yes, this.
Yes, you can drink from mine.
Cool.
So we do a thing called the slurp.
Great.
You're on.
Kampai.
Yeah. Awesome, Kevin. Thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, follow YouTube, Instagram, share. As Alex likes to say, if you like an episode, screenshot it, put it on your stories or on your TikTok. We're going to appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kevin. That was awesome.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Nama. Thank you. Yeah.